Eva Perón, a manufactured image. To begin with, I'm going to start with a little bit of background to Argentina. In the 30s, Argentina had a lot of disillusionment with both democracy and capitalism. They saw each of those as being a big factor in their country's recent issues, and especially their economic problems. So Juan Perón was able to take a lot of the angst among the Argentine people and to really use that as a way to fuel what he wanted to create in Argentina. He had a lot of populist ideals, and so he really played to what the people were wanting and desiring, and really built them up in order to succeed. So now I'm going to talk about Ava Duarte, the main focus of this presentation. She had very low-class origins. She was born in the Pampas of Argentina. Her father was a middle-class man, but her family was illegitimate. That wasn't uncommon for a man to have multiple families. But because she was in the illegitimate family, after he died, her family really struggled because they didn't have a source of income anymore. So when she was in her mid-teens to early 20s, she moved to Buenos Aires, the capital of Argentina. There, she really was able to create a career for herself, and she really was striving to get out of her low-class origins because she saw that as something that she really wanted to overcome. So she entered into the entertainment career. She was a model and was on radio commercials and had small acting jobs throughout the country. But she was not necessarily known as being a wonderful actress. According to Mary Main, it was not by application to the stage, but by intrigue that Ava meant to succeed, not by study and self-improvement, but by the clever manipulation of others. Indeed, her upbringing had shown her no means of getting on in the world, and she used her influence over men with a ruthlessness and energy that might have made her a great actress had she applied them to the pursuit of her art. So in essence, what Main is saying here is that Ava Perón, which is an incredibly ambitious woman who used her charisma and charm to influence and manipulate those around her, especially men, in order to achieve what she wanted. And that she wasn't necessarily focused on becoming a great actress. What she really wanted was recognition and fame. She was hungry for admiration. Because of her rise in the entertainment industry, though, she was able to come in contact with Juan Perón. Juan Perón was on the up and up. He was gaining a lot of influence with the working class and was gaining a very solid group of people to back him. There was an earthquake, and so they met at a charity event that Juan Perón put on in order to help the victims of that earthquake. They were immediately drawn to each other, according again to Mary Main. From these parallel backgrounds sprang two characters dissimilar in many ways, but each with a driving ambition, the desire for recognition from a world which from the beginning had slighted them. So in essence, they saw in each other a person who was going to be able to help them as individuals succeed and become more and more powerful. And so their relationship wasn't necessarily based on love, but instead upon something that could create greater recognition for them. Juan Perón really crafted an image for Evita that would help him in his political campaign. She was a parallel to the national mythology of coming from great origins, having a sad fall, and then being saved by Perón. And so because Perón had done that for Ava, the implication was that he would also be able to do that for Argentina. She was also put forth as the perfect ideal of an Argentine woman. According to author Taylor, Ava Perón's position in the nation exemplified the position of the ideal woman in the home. So she was submissive to Perón and really wasn't necessarily someone who was coming up with her own ideas or her own desires to have glory. She was following his. And so although she was with him in order to achieve those things, the image that they put forth was that Ava was this solid background for Perón, and that she was really kind of like the backbone and was in support of him, and that was how all Argentine women should be. And also those in another parallel how Perón's supporters should be. The Ava Perón Foundation was founded by Ava herself. This was a perfect example of the kind of populist ideas that Perón has put forth. So she really was reaching out to the poor. Ava would herself actually go out and work and talk to them, allow the poor to kiss her, and she would kiss them back, even people that had diseases. And so that was kind of very parallel to stories of lepers in the Bible, and so people really saw her as being a saint-like figure because of this. And then, of course, she also helped people find food and clothing and jobs, and so the people really began to just love her, and they really, really adored Ava. Eventually, it did become something where even today she is still seen as being a saint-like figure, and is just completely revered on the same level, in a way, to saints in that country. There were a few allegations of fraud that Ava and Juan Perón were putting money from that organization into their own pockets, the money that had been donated by Peronist businesses and individuals that were wealthy. But those are not necessarily substantiated claims. Ava also supported female suffrage. Again, according to Taylor, the author, Ava explicitly differentiated her movement from feminist movements in others, especially Anglo-Saxon countries, where Peronists felt that feminism had become a form of competition with men. So Ava's version of women's suffrage didn't necessarily have a feminist component. It was more about women being able to use the talents and abilities that they had in order to serve the country. So it was a very non-threatening form of quasi-feminism. She didn't necessarily introduce the bills, but she supported those that did, and so she is credited with gaining women's suffrage in Argentina. Today, Ava is still seen as being an extremely saint-like woman. It is not uncommon for people in Argentina to have photographs or paintings of Ava next to images of the Virgin Mary, because that country is primarily Catholic. So even today, she's really seen as somebody who saved the country and was somebody who, maybe not saved the country, but saved a lot of the people that were really in a destitute position. And that's still something that is a problem for Argentina today. They still have a fair amount of poverty. And so because of that, she is still seen as somebody that is really looked up to. Also, her death, she died of cancer at 36. And so her death was seen as, a complete tragedy, and they lost this wonderful leader of their country, the mother of their country. And so people still today feel that way and kind of revere her as like the ultimate Argentine woman. The president of Argentina today is actually a woman, and Christina Kirchner has said that Ava is an inspiration to her, and that she should be to all Argentine women, especially those in politics and those looking to make a difference. And so she's clearly somebody that's still very much at the forefront of Argentine thought. She hasn't faded back into history. She's somebody that still is very influential, and the Peronist Party is still influential in Argentina. On her deathbed, Ava is said to have written a short pamphlet called In My Own Words. It's supposed to be a supplementary work to her autobiography-esque book, The Story of My Life. Although it's probably complete propaganda, the ideas that are in it are very exemplary of how the Peronists wanted Ava to be seen. So in that work, she says, "My last words are the same as the first. I want to live with Perón and with my people forever. God will forgive me if I would rather stay with them, because he too is with the poor. And I have always seen a little bit of God in every descamisado who asked me for a little love, which I never withheld."